Welcome to B-Flow Sessions, the podcast where we help you find and stay in the flow on the water and in life. I'm your host, Brad Burton. Join me as I sit down with paddlers, athletes, and adventurers who are all seeking the flow. B-Flow Sessions is brought to you by our friends at Pecan Kayak Retreat. Are you dreaming of a Chilean whitewater escape this winter? Picture turquoise rapids, warm sunny days, and world-class rivers for every skill level, all based out of a riverside retreat built by paddlers for paddlers. If that sounds like your kind of winter, then Pecan Kayak Retreat is the place. To learn more or to book your dream kayak trip, reach out to me directly at bflowkayak@gmail.com and I'll help you get connected. Also, thanks to our partners who keep us in the flow: Dagger Kayaks, Stohlquist Waterwear, Sawyer Paddles, and Level 6 Gear. Welcome to the next episode of B-Flow Sessions. I am really excited today. An old friend of mine from the UK, from Dagger Kayaks, Simon Westgarth. Simon, thanks for being on B-Flow Sessions.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, it's so great. So Simon is now with Gene 17 Kayaking. Simon's a kayaker and coach, a highly respected British whitewater kayak coach and educator. He's the founder of Gene 17 Kayaking. With decades of paddling and guiding experience all over the world, he's contributed significantly to modern kayak techniques and coaching methods. Simon blends technical skill development with real-world river experience, helping paddlers navigate challenging rivers, make confident decisions, and develop independence on the water. So Simon's, he's going to tell us a little bit more about Gene 17 when we get to that. But I was looking at his website, and if anybody wants to take trips in Europe or in Chile, Simon and Gene 17 Kayaking is definitely the place to go and to look. So Simon, tell us, how did you find your flow in kayaking? What was your start?
By doing it. The simple answer is by doing it,
Yeah.
Like any endeavor that takes a while to gain mastery, you just need to keep challenging yourself and keep doing it and thinking about what you're doing and what has happened and try something else, rather than just do the same thing over and over again, which can be fun if you find a really nice move to do and you really enjoy to do it. But in the end, it's that adaptability that is, and so as things change, you change with it, and this allows you to build your mastery pretty effectively.
Wonderful. Who were your flow guides, your first mentors in whitewater?
Well, I started in the Boy Scouts, and I got a kayak. My first kayak session was on the flat water, and there I swam 3 times on flat water. The first time I was so keen for it. I mean, after years of playing rugby, it was something that was just so different, and so I got totally into it. And so one of those instructors, a guy called Gordon Summers, he was definitely the first person who just pulled me out onto the rivers a lot. And then I was lucky enough to, this kind of happened when I was 11. So, and I kind of was very much a club paddler, but where I originally from, it's predominantly flat water. You have to travel a bit to get white water, and most of the time the closest stuff is on weirs, which is like, where there's a play feature at the bottom. But I got into slalom, and that gave me some way to get some precision about my paddling and looking at early technical templates, if that's a term that's familiar. And from there, I went 1 year, I went to Canada, and I kind of went all over the west of Canada, in Alberta, British Columbia. Went up to the great, what's it called? The Slave River, and had just opened my eyes. And when I got back, I just got in with a nice crowd at the college I went to. It was in Plymouth, and there was 2 guys there, Pete and Pat, who basically we just bounced off each other for the next 4 years, really, and really developed our kayaking, mainly river running. But we were coming into the beginning of especially in the UK, where rodeo, as it was called then,
Hmm.
went away from juggling oranges in the stopper to actually having a bit more kind of precision and flair about specific moves you did in the stopper or the wave feature, the play feature.
So that kind of
And I would
happened
say
in,
that
yeah.
these
So
guys
that kind
very
of,
much were kind of um,
I'm sorry. That you talk about transitioning from like just showmanship to technical skills. That kind of happened in the United States right about 92 to 95. Did that kind of same time period, it kind of change in Europe as well, or was it before?
well in the UK. I mean, I would say it was a slightly parochial scene, dominated by a few of the older faces at that time, and it took a while for the kind of this kind of objective judging system came to the UK. So things were they were what they were, and but what I liked was that through the different magazines and occasional videos that you came along,
Hmm.
you saw that that there was a whole kind of way more technical aspect of playboating that where it was rising. I remember watching a video straight off the Koei Worlds where all of a
Hmm.
sudden people, the guys from the US East team, were doing lots of really nice moves that were nothing to do with kind of that early playboating that the UK was still kind of within, I would say, at that time.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it was great. And of course, the boats came along. Around that time, the Prejean Hurricane was the boat du jour of the era when I got to a certain age, and that just allowed us to do more. Just
Hmm.
play more.
Yeah. What years did you start traveling throughout Europe and exploring, the rivers of the Alps and Eastern Europe?
Well, I took a gap year before I went to university, and I spent that in Canada. And then immediately after I finished at college, I went back to North America. Um, while I was at university, the university kayak club, they would go to the French Alps, which is
Mm.
just upstream of Embrun, where Briançon or the classic one like the Durance and the Gille and all these classic kind of alpine in the Dauphiné Alps you find in France. And this style of whitewater is it's very combative. It's go go go. It's not steep, but it's relentlessly continuous.
Mm.
You can't really eddy hop your way down because it just goes. It's a
Hmm.
totally different style of whitewater that I certainly wasn't used to, even with all that experience before I started going there. And that was kind of a 2 or 3 weeks in the summer. Every summer from straight when the exams finished, you loaded up and drove out. But I hadn't really gone east of there or anywhere else until I after university, I went 2 years back to Canada, and then I came back, and then that was a very interesting time in Whitewater as a brand ambassador. I was effectively paid as a Dagger Europe or a tech rep, going around visiting dealers and going to all these different competitions. But the other flip side of it, I was involved in boat design. So what was great about that was there were so many competitions and events. Every weekend you went to someone's event of the season, and
Hmm.
you just show up early. You meet the local hot shots and the local crew, and they took you down their runs, and it was just great. And I got to discover all these different little corners of Europe that I'd never read about, never heard about, and
Hmm.
it was fabulous. It was a very joyful time, I can assure you.
That's one thing everybody talks about when they talk about with kayaking is, yeah, it's the kayaking that we fall in love with initially in the whitewater, but the camaraderie of the people and then the places that kayaking takes you is like nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, there's something very special about kayaking. A friend of mine, Deb Pinnick, ex-world champion, freestyle, and she wrote in her social anthropology masters, she talked about how whitewater kayakers, there's an implicit trust you give away. You get on the water, and maybe you don't know these people,
Hmm.
but they're kind of friends of friends, and you're going to go down the run, and you trust them, they trust you. There's not many sports or activities or endeavors that are like that.
Yeah,
So I imagine climbing, you need to get to know the people before you go up the routes with them, or so perhaps it's a bit like ski touring or ski mountaineering, where you share the experience, and there's a joint endeavor about it. um,
yeah,
and and even people you've just met, you go and have the time of your life with.
absolutely. So the next segment is perfect flow. I want you to think about a time when you just had the most perfect day on the river. And it's like, man, if I could just bottle that up and sell it, I'd be a millionaire. So perfect flow, your perfect day on the river that you've had.
I think when I effectively worked out the whole thing with blade pressure, where stability
Mm,
in whitewater isn't about bracing your way down the river, it's holding on to the energy of the river as it changes
mm,
direction or speed, or
yeah,
the gradient. All this is you hold on to this energy, and then you use the energy within the river that you generate off your blade and through your body, and move the boat where you want to. And for years, of course, I would chase the southern summer, or I would kayak year round. But now, since starting a family, I very much enjoy the winters, and even every spring I go to Slovenia, and I really enjoy the first few paddle sessions, as I get to feel that kind of blade pressure, and where the energy and how you move the boat, and how you can do quite different things in the kayak from when I started running whitewater.
mm,
And that's like, this is where this energy is, how you use it, what you can do. And on the Socha, which is the main river in Slovenia, where it is in the Julian Alps, where most people go, it's boulder gardens, so it has all these S moves and
mm.
jets and all kinds of pressure waves of boulders, and you can just use this, and you feel the energy on the blade all the time, and how you move the boat, and it's just a wonderful re-engagement, and it really helps me kind of lock into that flow of feeling where I'm going, and how the boat moves, and how I move with the white water through the terrain of the river.
Love it. So, what about a time when things weren't so perfect? I call it flood, but just a time in life or on the river when things went wrong and just nothing was clicking.
I mean, this is the interesting thing, so many kayakers identify what they are by the grade of river they paddle.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm a class 5 paddler, or I'm a class 3 paddler. But I would often say to people that realistically, if you're a real class 5 paddler, when things go wrong, you're able to bend it back to get it right.
Mm,
So as I've got older, I would say I will make occasionally, for many years, I would go years without rolling,
mhm.
um, and you just hold on to the water. But occasionally things would go wrong, and sometimes it would go really wrong. And then how you're able to bend back your performance to get refocus and feel where the energy on the blade is, and how you can control where you're going, and how you're getting there, and when you're getting there. And this for me is a kind of it's a real acid test of that, when someone labels what kind of paddler they are, is if they're able to do that.
Mm,
It's easy when everything, the river, and
right.
everything goes well. What's not easy is when, say, the river's a lot higher, or you go to a new destination, or a different style of whitewater that you're unfamiliar with, and how you're able to adapt your performance to that a changing environment, or the changing circumstances.
I love that.
I
Low
think
flow.
that's yeah, and
What
then that
about,
that's kind of a
okay.
real marker of a paddler, really.
Yeah, I agree. Let's eddy out and take a quick break.
Do you need a break from the cold of a North American winter? Then let's head south to the best whitewater on earth at Pecan Kayak Retreat. Email me at bflowkayak@gmail.com to learn more about how you can take the ultimate paddling adventure in the heart of Chile. Now let's peel out and head downstream.
What about low flow? Has there been times in your life when you've been away from kayaking, either by choice, injury, jobs, family, anything like that? And how'd you navigate that?
Yeah, so I say it's pretty seasonal here
Hmm.
for me. Um, so I'll give you an example. So I already talked about every year I love going to Slovenia, but
Yeah.
during COVID we couldn't travel. Yeah,
Hmm.
so I had to kind of here in Norway, um, yeah, everything's frozen out, and then like that, it's it's on. It's not
Right.
slowly on. It's on.
It's
You
on
know,
fast. Yeah.
and so you kind of you step up, you get your game face on, and you go for it. And in uh, 2020, I didn't. My season doesn't normally start like that, you know.
Mm.
And so all of a sudden, I remember being on the. I went down to Telemark, which was where most of the paddlers go. It's just west of Oslo, and this is like a granite slide heaven. It's got lots of Skukse, the Mar, and all these. The first river I was on, like you get on, and it's 50 meters, 5 meter, a booth, 5 meter waterfall. Okay, and it was just like get your game face on straight away. Okay, and there was no warming up. You know, you peel out from the eddy. There was no, you couldn't ferry glide back and forth. No, you peeled out from the eddy and you went for it. And it was and the first kind of kilometer was like, hold on to your hat here, Simon. This is the season has started, and that was for me that was like again classic, like having to stay focused in your game still while you're trying to get that kind of feel back in the performance of the boat and the familiarity of how it should feel from what you recall and what you're experiencing in that moment. But equally, it's like, oh my word, this is just hell of a start for the season. It,
Yeah.
it was great fun. Don't get me wrong, but it was definitely like, dude, this is, and I didn't know the river as well, because normally in May when Telemark runs, I'm in Valsesia, Italy, working.
Mm.
So I was completely unfamiliar with these rivers because by the time I come back to Norway in June, Telemark's done. It's one of
Gotcha.
those
Yeah.
places. It's short but sweet, and if you and so I've never been, so it was definitely unfamiliar with the places, blind horizons. You're following your crew in, and it's just the first paddle of the season, so it was pretty. It ramped up pretty sudden, which arguably, given what I've told you about Slovenia, I try to avoid this because I like to start the season in a start and finish the season in a calm and kind of getting that feeling and feeling the control in your performance.
Sure. Well, what about the current? What do you do to find flow today? And tell us about, Gene 17 kayaking.
Okay, so I was very lucky in the, I wouldn't call it the heyday, but there was a time in whitewater kayaking where the sport was growing fast and there was a lot of money being thrown at it.
Hmm.
And I've already mentioned it, this kind of tech rep and brand ambassador job, where I would travel around Europe. And what I was really lucky, I was going to all these places I've never seen, um, and I was realizing, holy, I could run trips here. But what I didn't want to do was simply offer guiding solutions. Why that is a problem is that all of a sudden people show up, they paddle, and you realize that we're not going to hit the tick list of rivers in the destination because the crowd are not up to it. They need some help. We have to
Hmm.
do some coaching. And so at that time, I just finished, I managed to squeeze in 8 months getting a post graduate qualification as a school teacher, and then also at the same time I went and got the started on the journey to get the most senior coach qualification under the old British system. And I realized I was like, actually, and I've been doing a bunch of instructing and coaching beforehand, but this kind of gave it structure and purpose. And then I realized I was paddling in these destinations. Like, these are great places for people to learn. They're fantastic classrooms for whitewater. And so you could structure it where people can learn, develop their own performance. And then, of course, we could test that performance in a controlled way. And so, so many of these destinations that I went to for the first time, I realized that this would be great here. And at the time in Europe, it was the rise of the budget airline, which is like probably more like Southwest Airlines in the US. And it's this kind of where people, they often went to the less prominent airports, and that kind of worked out fine for Slovenia, because people could fly into Trieste Airport in Italy, or Malpensa in Milan. And then I started offering like all inclusive, where did this for the main part of the time, where we supplied boats, catering, and accommodation. And then at the run-in up to the pandemic, people's habits change, and then in these destinations, there's people who now rent boats in all these destinations. So all of a sudden, I didn't need to run this all-inclusive product, which was exhausting. Did 2 weeks of it, and then you needed time off. So now we run like a coaching-only product in these destinations. So one is, of course, we go to Slovenia on the Socha River, which is like where you want to go to become like, to enjoy being a class 3 paddler and pushing on, if you wish, because that jump on from class 3 is pretty big step for a lot of paddlers. Because if I was to talk about grading, class 2 is pretty straightforward. Class 3 is normally point and shoot. You don't have to work in the rapid normally, but class 4 you have to do some endeavor, some work in the rapid to get to the exit safely. And that demand on work in action is the difference between class 3 and 4, and why it's such a big jump for many paddlers to get to. I mean, class 5 is just about being precise with the work you do in the rapid. Of course,
and the consequences if you're not precise
can be bigger.
And the consequences if you're not precise, right?
I mean, all those things. But all those things you can't change. All you can change as the paddler is the work you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the only thing you have dominion over, And so we can talk about this grade, that grade, this rapids, this or that. It's a question: do you go or you don't, and can you do the demand, the endeavor in the rapid, do the task to get to the exit? And that's the only question, really. Anyway, so and that's Sochi. When you go early and late season there, because in peak season the river's just overrun with all kinds of different river tourism. And for people to focus on their learning is really difficult. So I try to. So we're there in April and in the fall, September, October, and then and in May I'm in Italy, which is like this granite. It's granite slides and boulder gardens. So a little definitely Californian-esque. Yeah. But the density of the rivers inside the Valsesa catchment is so significant that you can just drive 10 minutes and then you're on another primo run for world-class pool drop whitewater. And the season there is 3 to 4 weeks normally, premium season, but in like kind of May into June every year. And there we just teach people how, river running drops, pool drop whitewater, and how ultimately it's about boofing, but keystroke concept really, and how you can and then tactics that underpin running drops successfully. And so they'll go there, and then the rest of the summer we're in Norway. We do a little bit in the French Alps if demand because it's a very traditional place for like the British and Irish kayakers to go. And so
Hmm.
they ask, but everyone who works with myself, we love to be in Norway by mid-June anyway, and
Sure.
stay as long as we can, really. And
Yeah.
that white water, you got everything,
Right.
Don't be distracted by the what you see the main brand ambassadors running the NAR. There's lots of really nice class 3 and 4 white water to be enjoyed there,
Sure.
you know,
So what
and
about flow
especially on the
advice?
river where I base myself.
Okay. Yeah. What about flow advice?
Advice? What do you mean by
Yeah,
that?
if you're
But
to both a beginning paddler and someone who's re-entering the sport, I find there's a lot of 35 to 50-year-olds who maybe got out of kayaking who are now rejoining the sport. So again, both to a beginning kayaker and a re-emerging kayaker, what advice would you give them?
so when you sent the question out, I asked my son, and my
Okay.
son is like, he's 12 now, and he's just gone from a kid's boat into kind of a teeny teenager boat, if it were, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I asked him, okay, what's the question here? And he goes, long, slow strokes. And what
Love
he
it.
means by that is that, and this, of course, I've pinned him down on that. What he means is, so one of the things you need to develop as a paddler, and it takes time, is your proprioception, how you
Hmm.
move through time and space. Now, your connectivity with this is the blade pressure, is what's happening. The paddle blade holds you in the environment as you move through it, and if you constantly get feedback from the blade itself, as the environment changes and you move through that changing environment, you're holding on to those changes and you're developing this sixth sense, as it's often referred to, and it allows you to feel the acceleration, the deceleration, the change in current, rather than your eyes constantly giving you feedback, which is fine because they're a primary sense, but often is the case is that you feel the change off the blade through your hands, of course, before you often recognize it with your eyes.
Okay.
So one of the things, if you're teaching people, they let their eyes, oh, I'm at the eddy line. Well, maybe the tip of the bow is, and given that modern boats have so much rocker, the boat
Hmm.
hasn't engaged the eddy line at all. But
Yeah,
the eyes, they perceive they're there, but in truth they need to wait to feel the change before they execute a move or a task at the feature. So long and slow means that you afford yourself more opportunity to get the feedback from what's happening around you, so you can make the decision in the action, rather than it pre-prescribed. Oh yeah, when I get there, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and it's often those two different things is the big division between when people come in and they're told a lot of detailed technical templates and they don't allow themselves to feel the change, and rather than they witness the change, if you see what I mean.
I love it. Yeah, that's great advice. Are you ready to run the rapids with me?
Run the rapids. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
ready to go.
Okay. Okay. So this is like,
Let me pop my spray deck on.
I hope you know your American history. So we have a Mount Rushmore here with four presidents on them. So people refer to a Mount Rushmore of something. So it's basically just your way of saying, what are my top 4 or 5 things from this category? So I'm going to throw out a category and you give me your 4 or 5 favorite or best things in each category. Ready? All right. Favorite kayak designs of all time.
Yeah, go. Oh, I can't remember what I wrote down. um, I'm an absolute progressive. I love that we're on the continuum of change that is driven by paddlers informing the next thing we're doing, and then the designers produce something else, and then we move on and on and on. However, I made a surfboat. It's in a movie, Never Forever, and the hull on that is pretty much what was on the Dagger Kingpin. Um, so you ran it flat and it would skip. It would hop, pop, but you put it on its edge and it would go. you know.
Hmm.
And so, and that's because of the relationship between the center line and the outside edge of the boat. I think I was very pleased that that idea became something other than having a lot of fun on the surf with it.
Well, if it means anything to you, the Kingpin is my favorite play boat of all time. So good job on that hull. Rivers ever the your favorite rivers you've ever ran?
Oh, this there are many. Okay. Um, uh, it's hard to point. I mean, I love the Sesia Alpine Sprint in Valsesia. This is a wonderful go go go. As is Vasaska in Switzerland. It's beautiful, especially the crew I went with the first time. Ollie Grau and the really keen Germans of my generation, if it were. The
Hmm.
Sawana in Italy, I really love. Finna here in Norway is beautiful, is relentless. One of the rivers I really like, but I have to be kind of more in my playboat, is it's a section on the Sjø called Åsenjuvet, and this is a big volume class 3-4, and lots of wonderful moves you can do with off like big pillows and lots of boosts, lots of S moves, lots of kind of up, chop the tail, spin it around, S move it out, you know, and all these kind of things that link together, you know. But I can't remember what I wrote down. So have I
Yeah, I
missed
can.
something?
The Slave, Skook. Those were a couple that you 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 mentioned there.
One river
Tuliberry.
I would love to paddle again is the Great Slave in Northwest Territories of Canada. I
Hmm.
went there was 19, and every day we were running something new with a few locals and other paddlers from Canada, and this was just amazing to be that far north in short sleeves, chocolate brown, warm white water, and and pelicans on the islands.
And gigantic
It was
horseflies.
unworldly. Yeah, but as soon as you paddle away from the shore, no, it was like when you were out there, it was something different. When you got to the beach and started walking back to the car,
The
and then
mosquitoes.
you were, yeah, well, it was
Yeah.
pretty
I
hellish.
remember on
Yeah,
the
it
water,
was
these big
shockingly
horseflies
bad.
would come.
Yeah,
We would get these big horseflies that would bite us through our dry tops
yeah, they got a
on the
thing called
river.
bull rover there. I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
we got so one story of the Great Slave. So on the mountain rapid is basically the river goes around the peninsula, and you park the car on top of, spray yourself with your mosquito repellent, get out, unload the boat, walk to the river. You know, you would have a couple of hundred new friends hovering around but not biting you. Get
Yep.
on, paddle away. After you're 100 meters out, they're nowhere to be seen. Yeah, great. And it's a great day out. And I remember on one trip, we had a fantastic time, and then we get to the beach at the end, and we're all there, high five, fantastic, and we're all talking how good it was. And then everybody started looking at each other, going, "Well, who's got the bug spray?" You know, and no one had it. Yeah. And what I noticed is the local, this girl that lived there, this local, and she looked at everyone, and I could see in the dread in her eyes that it was really serious, you know. And so she pretty much come up with a plan. Yeah, I'll go first. It's my fault. I'm the local. I should have known. Halfway up the hill, I shout. Next person goes. Next person goes. All right, okay. And and these are all kind of localish or Canadians, and I was the only one who was not from there or had this kind of experience. Anyway, and she just looked at me before she went to Simon. Whatever you do, you don't stop. Doesn't matter. You
Yep.
don't stop. If you cannot see, it doesn't matter. You don't stop. And I'm like, dude, this is a hell of a pep talk. And anyway, so it was, everyone went, bub, bub, bub. And and then I heard the bub for me. And I went, you know, I was young and fast then, and I ran, you know. I ran, and in the last 50 meters, my eyesight became impaired.
Yeah.
I could not see, and they were like, in the last 10 meters, they were just calling me to where they were. Yeah,
Yeah.
this way. And I still had the boat and everything. And I dropped the boat and put my arms out, and they sprayed. and I just closed everything I could, and he sprayed and sprayed and sprayed, and yeah, we finished, and I slowly opened my eyes, and I mean, basically, the mosquitoes, but of course, when you spray them, they die, but they were just everywhere,
Right.
and I'm scooping them off handfuls
Oh
everywhere,
yeah.
and and I'm just like, this is outrageously, this. And then on the way back, they went, "Oh, we go to this place where this lake is, this cold lake inside Buffalo National Park," and we went there, and we were in this really cold water. It was beautiful because it had been so hot that far, even that far north. And then we were getting hammered by these bull rovers, and
Yeah.
this fly. It's like a diving horsefly, and all of a
Yep.
sudden it just kind of dive at you, and then you go underwater.
Yeah.
And then it would miss you and get stuck on the water surface itself. And these were bad, Yeah, and I remember the girl there. She was telling us that the when I had arrived there, I arrived on Sunday, but that Saturday night, someone got drunk in the local bar, and they got lost on the way home, and they found him like 2 days later, and the poor guy had to go to the asylum because he'd gone a bit bonkers.
Oh my gosh. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's a serious play.
Is there a river that you've never done that you absolutely have to do?
Well, I go to Chile soon, for the first time.
Oh, okay.
Normally when I would go south for the winter, it would be Zambezi, New Zealand, or to Nepal or something like that. So I've been to Ecuador and Peru before, but I've never been to Chile, so I'm really looking forward to it. I go there in November with a bunch of the old friends. So
So any place in Chile, but I would guess maybe the
we're going to
Futalefu.
Pucón, and now I never. Yeah, I mean, I will not go to Futaflu this time, but I will
Yeah.
go the next time. So my plan is maybe in a couple of years' time I would consider going to Futa. My understanding, you want to go a little bit later anyway, not
Yes,
November, more December, January.
for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. All right. So this one can be controversial, but and maybe, having someone from the UK, from Europe will give us a different perspective. Your Mount Rushmore. Hold on, I had to wait for the bell to ring. I'm a school teacher. I'm on my lunch break. Your Mount Rushmore, your best kayakers of all time.
Now, I really wish I'd remember the form there I sent you. I mean, for me, when I was young, iconically Richard Fox, the slalom paddler, 5 times world champion, who's produced a couple of daughters who got plenty of gold medals between them now.
Yes.
I was blown away when I met Rob Lesser
Yeah.
in Idaho, and it was I got to paddle with him on the Locksaw, and this was
Mm,
something else. And when I first came to the US, the Kavu Day had come out,
hmm
and I met Dan Gavir, and who I would recommend you got on here, he's good, and then Arndt Schafflein and Bernd Summer.
Yeah.
These are kind of iconic paddlers, and then that's why I met them. But then once I started traveling around Europe, not only did I go and hang out with them a lot, and Ollie Grau and Ingrid and Olaf Opsummer, famous videographer.
hmm
So this whole crowd, they're great to paddle with, good fun, especially on the road trip. Really, really good fun. And classic, that's what you kind of tend to do in Europe. You road trip, car camp, and just enjoy. But Mount Rushmore, Rob Lesser, go on. Rob Lesser would be the all
Yeah.
time.
For
Yeah,
sure.
he was definitely the pioneer that I think
Yes.
that's a good crossover for your audience.
Yeah, so an incredible, list of people that you named there for your Mount Rushmore paddlers. But this last question I've got for you that I ask everybody is final flow. And there's so many things we do in life for the last time, and we don't know it that it's the last time that we're ever going to do it. But if the river gods came down and they said, Simon, you've got one more day ever to kayak. This is your last day ever in a kayak, but they're going to let you pick the age that you were, they're going to let you pick the boat that you're in, and probably more importantly, they're going to let you pick the river that you're on, and probably most importantly, the crew that is with you. Who would it be? Where would it be? What would it be in?
I mean, every year I still go to Valsesia in Italy, and it's such good quality whitewater. Lots of different sections, even on the main river, let alone all the side tributaries. So I suppose I would do a top to bottom, but in reality, you can't run every section at the same water level. It doesn't work like that anyway. But my
Mm.
crew, I mean, I love to paddle with Dave Carroll and my wife, Dave Carroll from Ireland. He was my best man, and he worked with me at Gene 17 for a long time. Now he's kind of a pediatric paramedic in Ireland. And then my wife, of
Oh
course,
wow.
she's that golden smile. That golden smile is great to be on the
Mhm.
water. And then like Deb Pinniger, she's a great friend. I just spent the weekend with her, ex-world champion freestyle for a few times. Great to paddle with her.
Yep.
Yeah, Ollie Grau. And if I say Ollie, I've got to say Ingrid as well. They're always great value and a lot of fun to paddle on the river with. So you can just share the vibes all day long, and it's just good energy. And Jakob, who works with me now, so the list can go on and on, really, I suppose. And the boat, I'm one of these like that people wax lyrical about old boats, and I always go back and try old boats, but they're not the same as you remember, and they kind of belong in the past,
Yes.
you know. Um,
Yes.
yeah, you know, yeah, you probably know when I was younger, maybe 75 kilos, this boat would have been amazing. And I go back in that boat like now and I paddle it around it was amazing, but we've made progress, and that's one of the delights of working on the product development with Palm and Dagger over the many it's decades now, if I really think about it. And then the progression, I love the way that the sports progress, and the elite performers of the time, they push the envelope with the product, and then they get to paddle the boat in a different way, and then the designers take on those ideas as the next kind of episodical project, and it moves on. So I'm really enjoy paddling the Indra at the moment.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you can kind of preload the bow and get extra pop off a wave over a drop. It just something different that you can't do in a creek boat. And a traditional half slice, you probably overload the tail, so it wouldn't kind of work in the same way. So all of a sudden, just it allows you to do moves that you couldn't do before. So I just like that, and of course
Nice.
I'm in long discussions with Snowy at the moment. Where we go next? What's the next boat? L- Enjoying the solutions that the manufacturers put up, and trying to understand who's it for. And just like everything that's happened in recent times, whether it's skiing, with skis are easier to ski these days, mountain bikes. I mean, 2 decades ago, you'd kind of need a different mountain bike for every type of terrain, and now you kind of just need a long travel enduro and probably an e-bike version of it, and you can just go everywhere. And even people who are not that good can get on the bike, or even get in the boat and get into kind of more predictable, often more manicured terrain. Same like the classic pool drop, people can access that really easy. There's a big long Greek word. There's a epistemological void there, really. But anyway, that's a whole other question and debate, no doubt.
Yes, I mean, as someone who's come back into the sport, I had so many people advising me, don't just spend a couple $100s on an old boat, get a new boat, and man, they were so right. The comfort, starting with the comfort level, but then that bow rocker, the speed, the performance, the everything, just so good.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's easier, and it's great that it's easier. It allows more accessibility, more reward, more fun. Yeah. And on certain types of terrain, it
Yeah.
really focuses that, on pool drop white water, which is very Instagrammable for many a paddler. And you can just boost the boat and it skips out the bottom. Thank you very much. I'm having the time of their life. And of course, it's great that people can do that. But sometimes in these same boats, they go on to more kind of continuous alpine style whitewater where it's kind of relentless. And you have this kind of substantial gap in your inexperience of that style of whitewater, or it's big volume or river and flood. And it's quite easy for kind of paddlers to get into trouble. And in my role as a coach, I
Hmm.
see that, you know.
Yeah, that's a great point. But that sounds like an amazing final flow. And Simon, thanks so much for being on B Flow Sessions and just continuing to push the sport from a product design standpoint, coaching. And I know even though you and I both are a little wider up here and a little wider down here, you're still an incredible athlete in a boat as well.
Well, I kind of I remember when I played rugby from such a young age, and you learn to read the game. Um, Whereas
Mm.
older kids came in later on in their kind of youth development, and they would run around and be knackered, you know. And I think as I've got older, I just understood the tactics of river running and how the boat works and its performance. You know, even now I'm in my like mid 50s. I definitely feel my strength is fading. I can't pull on the paddles as hard as I used to, and yet I can definitely make the boat move where I want it to go, and really feel that pressure on the blade, and without much effort, I can make the boat flow where it likes to go.
It's amazing how we get smarter and wiser and as we get older, both in life and on the river. But I have a funny saying. You know why God puts 19-year-old brains in 19-year-old bodies, don't you?
Go on.
So they don't take over the world. Because if you had a
Yeah,
19-year-old body
that's
with your
true,
50-year-old
true.
brain, you'd be unstoppable.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. You know, is of course wisdom of the years certainly helps you enjoy the river in perhaps even not a less hectic way. I think I was younger. I did, you know, it's all about trying to get going faster and almost kind of beat the river in a gladiatorial way. And it's very much not like that anymore. You
Mm.
know, you move around, you allow the diagonals and the different currents and flow to move the boat, and you just hold the pressure on your blade as you dance around, really. I suppose that's probably a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, instead of a competition with the river, you're in flow with it. It's kind of a relationship that you have together.
Yeah, very much so. And I kind of early on in this interview, I talked about like at the beginning of the season, you try to find that connection again. Like it's an old, I wouldn't say it's like an old friend, but there's that kind of, it's a lovely feeling. And you try to find it and kind of nurture it in the early days of the season as the challenges and the endeavor increases. Yeah, it's great fun.
Very cool. Well, Simon, again, thank you so much for being on B-Flow Sessions. And I have a loose plan right now in the works to get across the pond to join you on some rivers over in Europe.
Well, you're more than welcome. As I pointed out, Slovenia runs all year or kind of all summer, but I avoid peak season because I like to be elsewhere. You know, Italy, Valsesia is fantastic in May. It's kind of the best of it. It's like a little California, but with the whole Italian style off the back of it. And
Mm,
then Norway for the summer is where you go, where it's cooler, so you don't melt
right.
in the Central European heat, and it's adventures for friends and very high
Sure.
quality white water, so it's good fun.
Awesome. Well, Simon, thanks again for being on B-Flow Sessions. Until next time, cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of B Flow Sessions, where we explore how paddlers find their flow on the water and in life. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show, leave a rating, or share it with a friend. It truly helps us grow the community. And a huge thank you to Pecan Kayak Retreat for sponsoring today's episode. If you're ready for a world-class Chilean whitewater adventure, email me at bflowkayak@gmail.com and I'll help you get dialed in. Until next time, keep finding your flow.